asked his wife. "What would you most like for your birthday?" she said. "I'd love to be 10 again." On the morning of her birthday, he got her up bright and early and they went to a theme park. He put her on every ride in the park, the death slide, the screaming loop, the wall of fear. She had to go on every ride there was. She staggered out of the theme park 5 hours later, her head reeling and her stomach turning. Then they were off to a movie theater where they ate popcorn and sweets and drank cola. At last, she staggered home with her husband and collapsed into bed. Her husband leaned over and asked, "Well, dear, what was it like being 10 again?" One eye opened and she groaned. "Actually, honey, I meant dress size."
After being nearly snowbound for 2 weeks last winter, a Seattle man departed for his vacation in Miami Beach, where he was to meet his wife the next day at the conclusion of her business trip to Minneapolis. They were looking forward to pleasant weather and a nice time together. Unfortunately, there was some sort of mix-up at the boarding gate, and the man was told he would have to wait for a later flight. He tried to appeal to his supervisor but was told the airline was not responsible for the problem and that it would do no good to complain. Upon arrival at the hotel the next day, he discovered that Miami Beach was having a heat wave, and its weather was almost as uncomfortably hot as Seattle's was cold. The desk clerk gave him a message that his wife would arrive as planned. He could hardly wait to get to the pool area to cool off, and quickly sent his wife an email, but due to his haste, he made an error in the email address. His message, therefore, arrived at the home of an elderly preacher's wife whose even older husband had died only the day before. When the grieving widow opened her email, she took one look at the monitor, let out an anguished scream, and fell to the floor dead. Her family rushed to her room where they saw this message on the screen. "Dearest wife. Departed yesterday as you know. Just now got checked in. Some confusion at the gate. Appeal was denied. Received confirmation of your arrival tomorrow. Your loving husband. P.S. Things are not as we thought. You're going to be surprised at how hot it is down here."
A little girl finally got to attend a wedding for the first time. While in the church, the girl asked her mother, "Why is the bride dressed in white?" The mother replied to the girl, "Because white is the color of happiness, and it's the happiest day of her life today." After a little bit, the girl looks up at her mother and says, "But then why is the groom wearing black?" After my retirement from the company I worked at for 50 years, I looked forward to some relaxation time and putting my feet up. But my wife had other ideas. She insisted I take her to the local shopping center every day. Like most men, I found shopping boring and preferred to get in and out. She's like most women, loves to browse and leaves me with endless time to fulfill. Yesterday my dear wife received the following letter from the local shopping center. "Dear Mrs. Harris, over the past 6 months, your husband has caused quite a commotion in our store. We cannot tolerate this behavior and have been forced to ban both of you from the store. Our complaints against your husband, Mr. Harris, are listed below and are documented by our video surveillance cameras. July 2nd, set all the alarm clocks and housewares to go off at 5-minute intervals. July 7th, he made a trail of tomato juice on the floor leading to the women's restroom. July 19th, walked up to an employee and told her in an official voice, "Code 3 in housewares. Get on it right away." This caused the employee to leave her assigned station and receive a reprimand from her supervisor that in turn resulted in a union grievance, causing management to lose time and costing the company money. We don't have a Code 3. August 4th, went to the service desk and tried to put a bag of M&Ms on layaway. August 14th, moved a "Caution, wet floor" sign to a carpeted area. August 15th, set up a tent in the camping department and told the children shoppers he'd invite them in if they would bring pillows and blankets from the bedding department, to which 20 children obliged. August 23rd, when a clerk asked if they could help him, he began crying and screamed, "Why can't you people just leave me alone?" EMTs were called. September 4th, looked right into the security camera and used it as a mirror while he picked his nose. September 10th, while handling guns in the hunting department, he asked the clerk where the antidepressants were, October 3rd, darted around the store suspiciously while loudly humming the Mission Impossible theme. October 6th, in the auto department, he practiced his Madonna look using different sizes of funnels. October 18th, hid in a clothing rack and when people browsed through, yelled, "Pick me! Pick me!" October 22nd, when an announcement came over the loudspeaker, he assumed a fetal position and screamed, "OHNO! It's those voices again!" And last but not least, October 23rd, went into a fitting room, shut the door, waited a while, then yelled very loudly, "Hey! There's no toilet paper in here." One of the clerks passed out.
One night, Sally was saying goodnight to her parents and grandparents. "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, Grandma. Goodbye, Grandpa." Her dad asked her, "Why? Goodbye." "Oh, I dunno, I just felt like it." The very next day, her grandpa died. That evening, Sally was saying goodnight again. "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Goodbye, Grandma." Her dad was very suspicious, but said nothing. The very next day, Sally's grandma died. That night, when Sally said, "Good night, Mom. Goodbye, Dad," Sally's dad began to panic. He knew this couldn't just be a coincidence. So early the very next day, he went to work, locked his office door, and hid under his desk until late in the afternoon. Eventually, he decided he should probably go home, or his wife might get worried. He managed to arrive home safely and asked his wife how her day had been. "Oh, it was just awful," she replied. "The milkman died."
A burglar breaks into a home and holds the husband and wife in it hostage. At gunpoint, he forces the two to sit on chairs facing the opposite way, back to each other, and ties them to the chairs. The burglar slowly and methodically begins stealing from the house. When the burglar has taken everything of value, he gets ready to leave, the homeowners still bound to their chairs, when suddenly, the man yells at the burglar, "Please untie her, please, let her go." The thief responds with, "No, I'm not untying either of you so that the authorities get notified as late as possible. Don't worry, your neighbors will soon wonder why your lights are still on throughout the night and check in on you long before you succumb to dehydration." The man yet again pleads, "Please, just untie her. I'll do anything." The burglar once again explains his reasoning. "I need to get away with this crime. I'm sorry. I can't leave anything up to chance." The man shuffles his chair towards the burglar, in a state of mania, exclaims, "I'm begging you, man, just let her go. She won't call the cops, I promise." The burglar, still unwilling to budge, did find it quite touching how much his hostage cared about his wife. "Wow," he said, "you must really love your wife to beg me to untie her so desperately." "No," the man replied, in a state of frenzy. "My wife will be home in 15 minutes. A college professor is driving home drunk one Saturday night. When he gets pulled over, the cop comes up to his window and asks him, "Excuse me, sir, you were speeding. You ran a red light and you appear to be drunk. Where are you going?" The professor replies, "I am currently on my way to a lecture concerning the dangers of drinking, smoking, and staying up late." The police officer says, "Who could possibly be giving that kind of lecture at this time?" The professor responds, "My wife."
A wife comes home late one night. She quietly opens the door to her bedroom. From under the blanket, she sees 4 legs instead of just her husband's 2. She reaches for a baseball bat and starts hitting the blanket as hard as she can. Once she's done, she goes to the kitchen to have a drink. As she enters, she sees her husband there, reading a magazine. He says, "Hi darling, your parents have come to visit us, so I let them stay in our bedroom. Did you say hello?" A woman comes home early and finds her husband in bed with a girl. She is furious, threatens to kill them both, the husband says. "Believe me, darling, this is just a misunderstanding. I was driving home and saw this young lady trying to catch a ride. So I decided to give her a lift. I ask her where she needs to go, and she tells me she wants to visit some relatives, but isn't sure about their address. So, I took her home so she could check our phone book. Once there, I saw her dress is pretty ragged, so I decided to give her your old dress. Nearly 2 years that it's been hanging in the closet, and you never wore it. Then, I saw her shoes are also about to fall apart, so I gave her your old shoes, which have been doing nothing but collecting dust for 3 years. Of course, she said thanks, and then asked, "Excuse me, sir, but is there anything else in this house your wife never uses?" Hey, there, I put a lot effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy, thank you.